Nothing begins as silence. Deeper than sound, older than time, silence was the first condition, an infinite stillness before anything moved, before anything dreamed of moving. In this void without borders, without name, without memory, there was no jungle. But there was the possibility of one, possibility that strange hunger the universe carries, like breath drawn before a scream. From this emptiness, pressure formed, then fire, then light, and with light, the shadows remembered how to stretch. It took 8 billion years to make the smallest whisper of life. Stars died to make it, galaxies folded to permit it, and even then, the emergence of something that could feel was not a triumph but an accident, or a warning, because this is not a gentle place. Nothing in the structure of the universe promises kindness. It is ruled by fusion, gravity, collapse. Beauty is carved from violence. Order is stolen from chaos and must always be paid for. This jungle, this living place called Earth, was shaped by rules written in atoms, etched in blood, and whispered by things that do not speak in words. Life arrived not as a guest, but as a mistake that refused to die. The jungle is proof of that. Its trees are columns of time. Its leaves are scars on the sun's patience. Its soil remembers every death and hides the bones of creatures that try to rule it. Here in the thick breath of green decay, every breath is a gamble. Everything consumes, everything resists being consumed, and still the jungle grows blindly, hungrily, without morality, without end. When the first humans entered the jungle, they did not conquer it. They were devoured by it, dream by dream, limb by limb. The canopy swallowed their cries. The vines rewrote their maps, for the jungle does not acknowledge thought. It acknowledges only pressure, persistence, and adaptation. The brain, so proud, so recent, does not impress the jungle. Intelligence is nothing to the rot. Emotion is nothing to the spore. A single mushroom, buried for centuries beneath damp leaves, can kill more decisively than a bullet. A virus riding a bat's wing can rewrite the story of a continent. This jungle is not a place. It is a force, a slow, patient, inevitable eraser of hubris, and yet humans returned again and again, because the jungle is also a mirror. In its labyrinth of green, they saw not just danger but origin, a kind of remembering, because long before cities, before tools, before words, the first of them crawled through something like this, naked, shivering, trying to find fruit before something found them. The jungle is home, not in the way of comfort, but in the way of DNA. It is an echo inside the flesh, and so they feared it and worshipped it and tried to name it. But it never gave its name, for names are for the living, and the jungle is older than life. The jungle is the condition in which life occurs and ends. Time does not move the same way beneath the canopy. Light is fractured, direction is lost. Creatures operate by senses alien to upright walkers. There are ants that build cities larger than human ones, underground empires that outlast kings. There are frogs with poisons so potent, a single drop can silence a predator forever. There are vines that strangle trees slowly, year after year, until the victim is nothing but a shell around the strangler's core. Even the plants here do not forgive. They lean into light, into weakness, into whatever advantage the damp air can offer. And in this competition, nothing is spared. There are no final victories, only moments, glimpses. A jaguar's golden eye just before teeth, the shimmer of a snake before silence. Every second is the end of something. And still everything grows. That is the law, not kindness, not justice, growth. Deep in the Amazon, a species of fungus infects an ant and compels it to climb not for safety but for death. The fungus commands the ant to fix itself to a leaf, then blooms from its skull. It does this without malice. It is not cruel. It is only following the pressure. Multiply, expand, continue. There is no room for empathy in the rules that made this jungle. Empathy is a luxury of minds that forget the soil. But soil remembers everything. The jungle has no beginning and no end because it recycles itself completely. What dies feeds what grows feeds what hunts, and what hunts will die and feed the next. Around and around in silence, without pause, without remorse. Evolution is not a ladder, it is a pit filled with teeth. And in this pit, survival is not the mark of nobility, it is the residue of chance. When scientists speak of biodiversity, they speak in numbers, millions of species, many yet undiscovered. But numbers are small. What they cannot say is the feeling of standing in the jungle as dusk falls, the way the sound changes, the way the trees seem to breathe, the way you begin to feel watched, even if you are alone, especially if you are alone, for the jungle is full of eyes, not all of them physical. There is something in the rhythm of the place, an intelligence older than thought, something that calculates not with logic, but with hunger. There are places no foot has touched in centuries. There are ruins swallowed whole by vines that do not care what was once worshipped there. There are rivers that vanish underground into stone caverns where no light has ever reached. Life thrives there too. Pale, blind things that do not need eyes, only mouths. And what of humans now, with satellites, with sensors, with drones? Do they know the jungle now? No, they only map its surface. They only estimate its depths. And the jungle does not care about being known. It does not offer itself to understanding. It offers only one question again and again. Can you continue? Not can you win, not can you control, only can you continue? And even this question is not asked with words. It is asked in spores, in humidity, in the weight of each step that sinks a little deeper than the last. A jungle is not a puzzle, it is a test, and most fail. In recent decades, humans have brought machines into the jungle, chainsaws, bulldozers, fires, and the trees fell, and the ground bled, and for a moment it seemed that perhaps the jungle would end. But it did not, for the jungle is not limited to trees. It is not a location. It is not even earth-bound. It is a pattern one that occurs wherever life is pressed into conflict with itself. You can find the jungle at the bottom of the ocean. In caves beneath Antarctica, on microbial scales, in the wars between bacteria and virus, the jungle is the rule of entropy interrupted briefly by hunger. Even on Mars, in sterile labs, we bring the jungle with us in the form of bacteria on gloves, in the chaos of mutation, in the inevitability of adaptation. One spore is enough. One sequence of DNA can restart the whole engine. And in the cosmos, we imagine silence, cold, stars drifting apart, but there is a jungle in space too, not of plants, but of pressures, planets pulled apart by gravity, moons colliding, black holes feeding, galaxies devouring each other. This too is a form of jungle. Nothing is still. Everything is becoming something else. And if life arises elsewhere, it will face the same law. Continue or be continued by something else. There is no neutrality, no safe place. Nothing can survive in this jungle, not forever, because survival is not a destination. It is a delay. Death is the true shape of the jungle, not as a failure, but as fulfillment. The return to silence, the pause before new growth, and so the question becomes not how we survive, but why we try. In the beginning, not of time, but of awareness, there was no direction, no above or below, no edge to grasp, just a wide, infinite ocean of silence, darker than color, colder than ice, stiller than thought. Before atoms learned to bond, before gravity could stretch its invisible fingers, there was only this. A hush so perfect it felt like the universe had not yet decided to exist. But something did break that silence, not with sound, not with light, but with curvature, a warping of nothing into something. From this fold came time, from time, space, and from space the long, slow breath of becoming. 13 billion years later, the echoes of that first moment still drift like pale ghosts through the background radiation of the cosmos, whispering a language no living mind will ever understand. Drift farther, beyond the Milky Way, past the bright splash of Andromeda, into the quiet reaches where galaxies thin into threads. Out here, light takes billions of years just to arrive. Out here, the stars are sparse and brittle, as if the universe is growing tired. There are places in this frozen emptiness where entire civilizations have bloomed, burned, and vanished, and their light has not yet reached us. Think of that. Whole histories, whole truths, still traveling toward us at the speed of light, still hidden in the dark between seconds. And we wait, we point antennas into the sky and listen for signals that may never come. We build instruments to detect neutrinos, dark matter, gravitational waves, yet what we are really listening for is not physics. It is permission to believe we are not alone. There are stars that should not exist, massive, ancient giants far too old for their location, and there are galaxies moving in ways they should not move, not pulled by gravity, not pushed by anything we can see. There are cold spots in the cosmic microwave background, large enough and empty enough to defy our current models. We call them anomalies, we catalog them, we simulate them, but in private the question lingers: what if our model is not just incomplete, but wrong? What if our assumptions about time, space, life are blind? Imagine a planet orbiting a dead star, hidden behind a curtain of gas a million light-years thick. On that world, an ancient species once looked up at their own sky and wondered the same things we do. They built, they hoped, they questioned, then something happened, a misstep, a discovery, a silence. Now their cities are dust, their monuments cracked by winds, their libraries eroded to stone. No one remembers them, but their particles drift in starlight. Their echoes still bend the path of photons. Was their end violent or slow? Was it chosen or inevitable? We do not know, but we know they were there, and we know they are gone. The deeper we look, the stranger it gets. Time behaves differently near black holes, stretching and warping until seconds become centuries. Inside those dense horizons, physics breaks its promises. The equations that govern matter and energy collapse. Information vanishes, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's stored in ways we can't yet imagine, flattened into two-dimensional holograms, encoded in gravity, hidden in quantum foam. These are not just theoretical puzzles. They are existential cracks in our reality. For if the universe cannot keep its own laws consistent, what chance do we have of understanding our place within it? Then there is the Fermi paradox, the haunting contradiction between the vastness of the universe and the silence of the skies. There should be life everywhere, yet we hear nothing, no signal, no artifact, no distant flicker of intention. Maybe they are hiding, maybe they are dead, maybe intelligence is a brief flare, always snuffed out before it can spread. Or maybe we are not looking correctly. Maybe life does not communicate in ways we would recognize. Maybe it is not carbon-based, not physical, not even alive by our definitions. Maybe it is space itself, or time, or some hidden variable curled up in the 10th dimension. The void is not empty. It seethes with virtual particles, fleeting distortions in the vacuum that vanish before they can be measured. It contains dark energy, a pressure that drives the expansion of the universe faster and faster, tearing galaxies away from each other into a lonely future of cold stars and stretched light. This is not a universe designed for life. It is a place where life happens despite the odds, a flicker of order in a sea of entropy. And yet we are here, thinking, remembering, asking, that alone should not be possible. What if reality is a simulation, not a metaphor, but a literal architecture, coded in rules, maintained by something beyond comprehension? Physicists have begun to find strange coincidences in the laws of nature, constants fine, tuned to improbable precision, behaviors that echo digital logic. Could it be that we are inside something built, something tested, something watched? But if we are being watched, where are the watchers? And if we are not being watched, why does it feel like we are? Somewhere, in the silent ink between stars, there are signals we have missed. Some may be natural, the groans of neutron stars, the whisper of exoplanets transiting forgotten suns. Others may not be. The problem is not that we lack the tools. It is that we do not yet know what to ask. We are children in a library of infinite books, and we do not know how to read. Our models are sandcastles built beneath a rising tide of complexity. For every question we answer, 10 more take its place. The edge of knowledge is not a line, but a fog, and beyond that fog, something is watching, or maybe waiting. Why is the speed of light what it is? Why does time move forward? Why is there something instead of nothing? These questions are not academic. They are not decoration. They are wounds open, humming, persistent. The more we learn, the less certain we become. We hoped the universe would be elegant. Instead, it is recursive, contradictory, recursive again. Somewhere between the quark and the galaxy, between the singularity and the event horizon, lies the answer. But it may be an answer we were not built to hold. Our brains evolved to throw spears, to read faces, to survive heat and hunger. We were not designed to understand infinity, and yet we reach for it again and again with trembling hands. In the silence of a distant star field, there is an object dark, cold, ancient. It does not emit light. It does not orbit anything. It drifts alone beyond the gravitational pull of any system. Sensors catch only fragments. Mass readings fluctuate. Time around it behaves strangely, and then it vanishes, not behind a cloud, not into shadow. It vanishes from measurement, as if the universe simply chose not to acknowledge it anymore. What was it? Artifact, organism, error, or something else, something that reveals the true structure of reality, not with answers, but with absence. There is a chill at the core of knowing, a slow recognition that the more we see, the less the world feels familiar. We are not at the center, we are not the end point. We are a note in a larger song, and the melody is written in silence. The stars are not there for us. They burn regardless. They collapse regardless. The laws move on, indifferent to our questions, but still we ask, still we wonder, because the alternative is worse, that there is no question to ask, that the jungle of the cosmos is not a mystery, but a mechanism grinding, blind, eternal. And so the question is not what is out there. The question is, what does it mean to be the kind of creature that looks, the kind of creature that imagines, the kind of creature that fears? Maybe the universe is not watching us. Maybe it has never known we were here, but we know, and we cannot unknow. That is the burden of sentience. That is the weight of light. And as we drift farther from home, deeper into time, beneath stranger skies, one haunting realization remains. What if the jungle is not in the universe, but is the universe? And what if survival was never the point? What if we were never meant to survive it? In the long corridors of time, stars are born not in explosions but in silence. Clouds of hydrogen, vast, pale, and slow, begin to collapse under their own weight. For millions of years, they shrink imperceptibly until pressure ignites fusion at the core. A star awakens. For a while it shines in perfect balance, burning with quiet joy, but the joy is borrowed. Fuel runs out, gravity wins again, and every star, no matter how noble or distant, must die. Some end in soft, dim fading. Others rip themselves apart, sending shockwaves across galaxies. And some massive enough to command a collapse inward into nothing, forming black holes, the devourers of all things, even time. In the center of a black hole lies a singularity, a point where density becomes infinite, where the known laws of physics evaporate like morning frost. That singularity is not a place, it is a boundary of understanding. It asks a question in a language we do not speak, and it waits. But the black hole is only one riddle among thousands. Consider time dilation, born from Einstein's relativity. The faster you move, the slower your clock ticks compared to someone at rest. Near a black hole, time stretches so much that a few hours on its edge can equal years outside it. This is not theory, we have seen it with satellites. We correct for it in our GPS systems. It is real, it is measurable, and it is deeply unnatural to the human mind. We think of time as steady, as loyal, but the universe does not care for our intuitions. Time is not fixed, it is elastic, warped by speed, bent by gravity, stretched by space. And if time can bend, can it also break? Now look farther. Beyond our galactic suburbs lies the silence that inspired the Fermi paradox, the contradiction between the high probability of intelligent life and the complete lack of evidence for it. There are over 100 billion galaxies, each with hundreds of billions of stars, most of which have planets. Even with conservative estimates, the numbers suggest thousands of civilizations should exist. Yet we hear nothing, no signal, no shadow, no artifact. It is not just puzzling, it is terrifying, because it means something we do not yet understand is at work. Maybe intelligent life destroys itself, maybe it transcends, maybe it hides, or maybe the filter, the thing that prevents cosmic flourishing, is ahead of us, not behind. If so, then every scientific triumph brings us closer to a wall we cannot pass. Entropy, the great dissolver, offers no comfort. It is the universe's steady surrender to disorder. Systems move from structure to chaos, from potential to spent energy. It is why stars burn out, why heat spreads, why memories fade. In thermodynamics, the second law guarantees that in any closed system, entropy must increase. The universe itself is a closed system, which means that over unimaginable time, all matter will decay, all stars will dim, and even black holes will evaporate in a process called Hawking radiation. The cosmos will not end in fire. It will end in silence, a cold, dark eternity where nothing changes, nothing happens, and nothing remains to notice. We call it heat death, and it is the ultimate jungle, empty and eternal. But before that darkness falls, there is life. Or was. Earth formed 4.5 billion years ago. For most of its history, it was empty of anything we would call complex. Bacteria ruled for billions of years. Multicellular life appeared late. Intelligence even later, and yet, in just a blink of geological time, one species began launching metal into orbit, decoding atoms, modeling the Big Bang. But that species is fragile. It clings to a narrow range of temperature, pressure, and chemistry. Remove oxygen, raise radiation, tilt the planet, and it ends. That fragility is not unique. It may be the rule. Life, as we know it, is not woven into the fabric of the universe. It is a crack in it. Galactic isolation amplifies the problem. The farther out we look, the lonelier it seems. Galaxies drift apart, driven by dark energy. Over time, the night sky will go dark. Distant stars will vanish from view, not because they die, but because their light will never reach us again. The speed of light is a hard limit, a wall, a sentence, and it means that one day our cosmic neighbors will not just be far. They will be gone, unreachable forever. Imagine a future civilization born 1 trillion years from now, staring into a starless sky with no evidence of other galaxies. Would they even know the universe was once full? Would they think themselves alone by design? That is not science fiction, that is forecast. In planetary formation, we find more questions. Most planets in our galaxy are not like Earth. Some orbit red dwarfs, tightly packed in tidal lock, with one side in constant light and the other in endless darkness. Some are super-Earths with crushing gravity, some are gas giants, some are rogue, drifting alone, ripped from their stars. Earth's conditions, liquid water, magnetic shield, plate tectonics are rare. Maybe not unique, but rare enough to matter. And even here, extinction has been the rule. 99% of all species that ever lived are gone. The planet has been sterilized multiple times by asteroids, volcanoes, radiation. Our existence hangs by a thread, and that thread frays every time we forget. Even biology betrays us. Our brains are built for stories, not statistics. We crave meaning. We find faces in clouds, gods in storms, patterns in chaos. But the universe is not a story, it is a process. Evolution has no goal. Physics has no plan. We assign purpose because we must. But purpose is not native to matter. It is imported, and that import can break. In deep space, on long missions, astronauts report a psychological effect called the overview effect. A sudden, overwhelming realization of Earth's fragility and the smallness of human concerns. But there is another side to it, darker and less spoken, the abyssal loneliness of cosmic perspective. To know the scale is to know your irrelevance. Quantum mechanics adds another fracture. Particles exist in multiple states until observed. Reality, it seems, is not solid. It is a haze of probabilities that solidifies only when watched. What does that say about existence itself? Is the universe participating in its own construction through observation? Is consciousness a byproduct or a requirement? These are not New Age questions. They are frontiers of physics, and they do not make the jungle smaller. They make it deeper, more intricate, more unnerving. We map the stars with radio waves. We name the planets with hope. We send golden records into interstellar space, etched with music and math and greetings. But we do not know who will hear them. We do not know if anyone will. And the silence grows. Each failed signal, each empty patch of sky, each lifeless rock, it grows, until the question is not where is everyone, but why did we expect anyone at all? Cosmology hints at multiverses, realms beyond ours, with different physical laws, different constants, different geometries. In some, stars never form. In others, time runs backward. In others still, life blooms in ways we cannot imagine. But these realms are unobservable, forever beyond our reach. That means we may be one of countless failed experiments, or a singular fluke, or nothing special at all. The anthropic principle says we see a universe that supports life because we are alive to see it. But that is a tautology, not a comfort. It replaces mystery with circularity. The problem is not just scientific, it is existential. Every discovery cuts deeper. Every telescope reveals a wider gulf. We reached for knowledge hoping to find meaning. Instead, we found complexity, beautiful, cold, unrelenting complexity, and still we look, because not looking is worse. But what if the jungle has no center, no sanctuary? What if every layer reveals another layer, and beneath it another, until we are peeling an infinite fruit with no core? What if the purpose of the universe is that it has none? This is not despair. Despair implies expectation. This is the clearing of illusions, the slow, necessary death of false comfort. And in that death, something raw and true may emerge, not peace, not meaning, but clarity, and clarity may be enough. Because in the deep silence between stars, something stirs, not a signal, not a voice, but a pattern, faint, repeating, wrong. We do not know what it is. We do not know where it comes from, but it does not belong. Its frequency drifts against known cosmological patterns. Its signature appears and disappears, and it defies compression as if it carries more information than it should. We catalog it, we simulate it. We disagree about it, but the instruments do not lie. Something is whispering through the void, and the whisper is not in a language. It is in a rhythm, a jungle rhythm, slow, relentless, indifferent. The signal did not grow louder. It grew stranger. Its rhythm did not quicken, it deepened. It did not answer our questions, it rewrote them. It came not from a direction, but from a layer, folded beneath space, folded beneath knowing. We pointed every array we had into the dark, and the dark looked back, blank and clean, as if nothing had ever happened. But we knew. We had seen the anomaly in the data, something that repeated but never repeated the same. A pulse, irregular yet identical in structure. It was not sound, it was not light, it was not gravity, it was pattern, and pattern is the first whisper of intelligence. But what kind? What emerged was not a message. It was a map, not of stars, not of galaxies, but of limits. It charted what we could never cross. It named the edges of thought. We could not decode it, but we could feel it. Like standing before a mirror that shows not your face, but your ending. It was not a warning, it was a design. We had assumed the jungle was chaos, but the signal revealed it was order. Cold, ancient, pitiless order. There are boundaries, there are cages, there are rules. And we did not write them, we are inside them, we always were. The realization came not as discovery, but as collapse. One by one, the constants we thought were universal began to flicker. Fine structure, decay rates, cosmic microwave smoothness. The deeper we measured, the more they shifted, just slightly, enough to matter, enough to make us question if they were always like this, or if someone, or something, had written over them. The jungle is not wild. It is constructed, but not for us. It is not a test, it is not a trap, it is a filter, and we pass through it only because we were not seen. Yet, think of it, a zoo, but the animals do not know the walls. A maze, but the rat believes it is free. A clock, but the gears are galaxies and the ticks are epochs. The signal is not from outside, it is from beneath. It is from the bones of the universe. Something is counting. Not us, not stars, but the arrangements, the probabilities, the masks of randomness that, when peeled back, show machinery. And in the machinery there is silence, not the absence of sound, the refusal of it. We are not being watched. Watching implies distance. We are being processed. One thought remains, one final shape. Maybe we are the anomaly. Maybe this jungle was meant to be sterile. Maybe consciousness was never supposed to happen. A glitch, a bloom of noise, an emergent spiral from a flat sea. We think, therefore we break the pattern, and now the pattern corrects. Time is not a river, it is a clock winding down. Entropy is not decay. It is balance being restored. Life, all life, is a local rebellion, a pocket of error, but rebellion has a cost. Rebellion is noticed. We thought we were explorers. We are contaminants. There are no warnings because there is no mercy. There are no answers because we are not part of the question. There are no others because the others saw what we could not. Survival requires stillness. Evolution favors silence. Intelligence may bloom, but if it shouts, it dies. We built beacons, we launched songs, we sent our names into the dark, and the dark heard. Now the anomalies multiply, now the drift accelerates, now the constants twitch. They are rewriting the code. Not to destroy us, to forget us, to scrub the error. The process does not hate. It does not punish, it restores. Galaxies do not scream, they fade. Civilizations do not burn, they blur. One moment they sing. The next, no one remembers the tune. That is the jungle's law. Nothing can survive, not because it is hunted, because it is unmade. And in that unmaking, something exquisite occurs. We understand. We were not meant to last. We were never meant to know, but for a moment, a flicker, we did. And that moment, brief as breath in a void, mattered not to the jungle, to us, and that is enough. The earth is still here, spinning in its ancient rhythm, wrapped in the gentle blur of blue and white, suspended in the black. A single breath in a vast silence. And for all its noise, all its wounds and wars, it remains delicate, infinitely so. Underneath the sky where satellites drift like forgotten thoughts, where the air is warmed by a star that gives everything and asks nothing, there is still a child watching the wind ripple through leaves. There is still a seed buried in dirt waiting for light. There is still laughter rising over the noise of a city that does not know how lucky it is to exist at all. And now, knowing what we know, these small things weigh heavier. They glow more quietly because they are rare, unthinkably rare, not just in the galaxy but in all meaning. A moment of life with eyes to see in a jungle that forgets it ever lived. The cosmic truth did not erase us. It revealed us. It showed that everything we are, everything we feel, every story, every scar is built on a foundation that was never guaranteed. There is no law that love must arise in matter. There is no rule that minds must learn to sing. There is no reason that time should hold memory, or that chemistry should birth conscience. And yet here we are, walking through forests that remember the first light, drinking water that once ran down mountains older than names, holding each other under skies that do not care. And that is what gives it meaning. Not because we are important, but because we are impossible. The jungle is wide, it does not smile, but we can. And the weight of that smile on a planet like this, under stars like those, is immeasurable. The darkness does not owe us safety. The void does not guard our stories. We, the strange mistake, the glorious error, the unexpected bloom, we are the keepers now, the stewards of a fragile flame that will flicker if we do not shield it. And we are not alone because of others. We are alone because no one else is left to care. But maybe that is enough to stand here, aware of the jungle's teeth, and still choose to sing, to know that entropy will take us and still plant the seed. To see the edge of time and still raise a child with stories of the stars. Hope now is not about survival, it is about memory, it is about action. It is about choosing what the last whisper of humanity will be. A scream, a song, a silence filled with light, this is our task. We cannot change the jungle, but we can change the way we walk through it. Every tree we plant, every war we end, every hand we hold, every child we teach. Every boundary we question, every wound we heal, every truth we seek without fear. These are not small things, they are echoes, they are defiance, they are love written against the current. The stars do not need us, but Earth does, the child does, the future, though uncertain, does. And even if time forgets, even if the last galaxy fades and the laws reset, there will have been a moment, a flash, where the universe looked at itself and we were there to witness it. The responsibility is overwhelming, but it is also beautiful. We are not just stardust. We are stardust that learned to care, that learned to imagine, that learned to fear and dream and hold on even when the night deepened beyond comprehension. The jungle does not offer meaning, it devours it, but we do, and so we become the only force capable of rewriting the ending, not with power, not with technology, but with grace, with kindness, with the quiet, stubborn belief that even if nothing can survive, something must be remembered. And so, under this fragile sky, we must build not for eternity, but for the next heartbeat, for the child who does not yet know how precious they are, for the forests that breathe for us in silence, for the oceans that hold our history in salt, for the lovers who find each other against all odds, for the stories that shaped us and the ones we haven't told yet. We are small, yes, but we are here. And in the jungle's silence, that is enough. Somewhere beyond the veil of time, beyond the collapse of language and the boundaries of light, the last ember of a dying star flickers alone in a silence too perfect to break. Around it, dust drifts like ash from ancient dreams, and the blackness no longer watches. It simply is. There are no more eyes to see, no more minds to wonder, no more hands to reach. The final rhythms of heat, vibration, and decay play out in slow, sacred spirals, like the closing breath of a story no one remembers writing. The universe is not cold, it is finished, and yet in that stillness there remains something. Not matter, not time, a trace, a breath held between dimensions, a shape burned into the symmetry of what once lived, not a legacy, not a monument, just a whisper. It does not speak in words, it does not carry names, but it echoes through fields where galaxies once bloomed, through the bones of space where gravity once sang, through the velvet darkness where silence first began. The whisper does not ask to be heard. It simply persists, fragile, indivisible, like the outline of a flame after it has gone out. Maybe it is memory, maybe it is light twisted into thought, or maybe it is the last consequence of echoing across eternity, because someone once dared to love in a place where nothing was meant to. The jungle has swallowed everything, stars, dreams, cities, oceans, stories, hopes, all pulled back into the silence from which they came, but it cannot erase the whisper, because it is not made of atoms. It is not part of any law. It is a question that remained unanswered even as the fabric of all answers fell apart. A question that once emerged from a fragile planet wrapped in blue, where minds arose in the dark and dared to ask, what if we were never alone but always unheard? And long after everything has ended, that question remains, a shimmer, a scar, a possibility folded into the deep structure of what was, not a voice, not a scream, just the faintest shape of something that once hoped to be understood,